Hi, I'm Rob Van Rapporth. Welcome to MBANow. Radian's Senior Vice President of Data and Analytics, Steve Gaenzler, was kind enough to join us today to discuss current trends in valuation and how technology and predictive modeling is influencing this sector of our industry. Steve, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background and your expertise?
Sure. I actually have been active in the real estate, mortgage finance, and capital markets for almost 30 years now. I have lived most of my career at what I call the intersection of finance and technology. So computational finance, quantitative modeling and research, capital markets, application design, and ultimately in the running of Five Bridges Advisors, which is a predictive analytics and software company focused on consumer, residential, and mortgage spaces that was recently acquired by Radian.
So what trends are you seeing in the risk and valuation space, and how is predictive modeling driving that change?
So it's a great question. It's a big question, so I'll answer it a little bit this way. So on the technology side of things, I think about us entering the next generation of cloud usage. So the original generations, or first generation, was all about applications that were designed off the cloud that were then used in the cloud. The second generation, or newer generations, are about applications that are newly created from kind of the ground up, that are using the architecture as context in development of those applications. So as a data analytics guy, it's really powerful for us to be able to data patterning and computational finance in a much different way. On the product side, things like artificial intelligence, robotics, machine learning are all being more accepted in the corporate environment. So I'll give you 3 examples of how that works. So how is predictive impacting the client engagement? So artificial intelligence is being used now to understand the full pattern of how the timeline is to close a loan, make a loan, do real estate transactions, etc. But we can also leverage predictive analytics to do things like predict the behavior and the needs of a borrower without actually having to have a nonstop personal relationship with that person. It's a data-driven result. And so we can take that to the next level by utilizing social mapping, patterning, that type of thing. Second way is in just pricing. So how do we optimize the risk-return paradigm? Radian actually released last year a product called Radian Rates, which is actually an automated pricing technology that is customized to consumer. It's a risk-based pricing. And the third area, which I think is really valuable, is how we're using predictive analytics to offset changes in the demographics of the overall industry. And I'll give you an example. There's a recent survey that said that 50% of all appraisers are going to retire in the next decade. Right? So how do we not see quality go down, prices go up, timelines extend? Well, we're now using, say at Radian, new technologies to look at photographs, right? That we can use different neural network applications to look inside a photograph and do things like identify the condition of the property, right? The value of the actual appliances. And so we can close the gap between what has been traditionally a human process and what automated technologies can do.
So that leads me to my next question. How reliable are the results?
It's a great question. I have to chuckle a little bit because I feel like I'm always defending mathematics and algorithms against humans. And generally speaking, there's a fact, right? The fact is a computer given a specific task and given a training, right, will be more consistent and less biased in a response. The reality is there's always subjectivity in every answer we're going to get, whether it's from a human or from a computer, right? The challenge is that we tend to believe the human flesh more than we believe the silicon. Math and algorithms are being tested all the time against vast amounts of information and data to come up with quantitative results around how good they are. And we don't necessarily do the things in the human context. You think about an appraiser. We don't go back and say, hey, Mr. Appraiser, the last 1,000 appraisals you did, why did you choose these 3 comparables as opposed to these other 3 that might have been perfectly fine? So deep learning, neural networks, these are all technologies in artificial intelligence that are designed to behave like the cognitive behavior of the brain. And so at the end of the day, all the advances we're seeing in technologies by predictive analytics are all proven out. But the reality is I think that we as humans have to get more comfortable with the trade-off between human bias and model risk.
So lastly, what sort of opportunities or challenges does it present for lenders and servicers?
Yeah, I think as a data guy, right, the biggest challenge is always in the data, right? How can you curate the data so that it's actually valuable, right? One of the, I think, most exciting things for me personally in joining Radian was that we really see that we have this vast amount of data that is yet to be tapped that can be curated to develop new products for our clients to extend that customer relationship and extend that customer reach in ways that we haven't been able to before. Essentially creating a fabric, a quilt, if you will, of consumer behavior and consumer inference that is valuable in predictive analytics. So the challenge will always be there from a data perspective. The opportunities, I think, are endless. I really do. And it sounds like a cliche, but the reality is if you look at how transformative technology has been across the spectrum from human to augmented to automated to autonomous in things like travel and transportation. All of those things are valuable even in the lender and servicer industries. And so there's lots of things that can be done to make that better.
Yeah, look, you guys are clearly making a huge impact on the industry, and it's fascinating what you're doing. Thanks so much for stopping by and discussing it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.